welcome distinguished delegates from Ghana and across Africa, and for that matter, across the world. Today, once again, marks a very unique opportunity in the history of the climate negotiations. HATOF Foundation has been part of this process since 2001. And this evening, we have a well-prepared and distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are going to share some experiences and lessons that they have learned in their journey in terms of mobilizing climate finance. Today's event has the theme, Raising Ambitions and Improving Access to Climate Finance. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this interactive session on how to plan, assess, deliver, and scale up a variety of multilateral funds to address the issue of climate change. It is unambiguous that continuous financial flow to developing countries is necessary to address the problem of climate change. Besides efforts towards climate-compatible development across the continent, concerns around access, inadequacy, imbalance, and of course, unpredictability of climate finance continue to be a characteristic or continue to characterize the discussion on climate finance that's leading to the decline in the financial flows to the continent. Today's side events, therefore, just as I indicated earlier on, raising ambition and improving access to climate finance will showcase actions on the implementation and the delivery by sharing information and best practices, innovation, and blended efforts of finance and financial mechanisms that have enhanced access to finance and offer space for networking with climate finance actors. Fortunately, at HATOF Foundation, we have been able to secure approximately $500,000 from the Green Climate Fund to develop a 5-year civil society climate change agenda and action plan, and also to develop a concept note proposing how this initiative could be scaled up or could be upscaled nationally in order for developing countries in our next readiness proposal. To do this, it took us almost 3 years to secure the grants. We are open to happily share with you our experience with all interested organizations and call for a collaboration as well. Today, I have a distinguished personalities that are going to join me to have this interaction. First on the list is Mr. Stephen Kansuk, Head of Environment and Climate Change at the UNDP Ghana. If Stephen is in the room, please, will you take the seat up stage? Can we give him a round of applause? Stephen has a decade of experience in providing strategic advice and resource mobilization with multilateral funds, including GCF, GEF, and the Adaptation Fund. Stephen is leading the delivery of a number of innovative developments in the country, providing solutions and using the UNDP's work on climate actions. We therefore have the privilege to listen to him at this material moment. I would have loved this wonderful lady to be on the panel, but she just whispered to me that she's been so much overwhelmed and tired today, so she will be replaced by a very competent young person who is very up and coming in the person of Thomas. What is the other name? Thomas Jambra. With another round of applause, can we receive Thomas Jambra to replace my professor in Red Plus, the head of the Climate Change Directorate at the Forestry Commission. Another wonderful personality who is also going to be on the panel is a risk person who has been involved with one of the important institutions that we have in Ghana. That institution is looking at how to mobilize climate finance for investments in the country. It's no less a person than Mr. Kojo Kwachi Jain. Let's give him an up. He's coming from Ghana Investment Infrastructure Fund. Last but not the least, yes, sorry. We also, you know, all these things that we are saying or we are doing, if there is no finance, then we cannot move forward. So we have somebody who has been involved with the climate finance agenda in Ghana and works with the National Designated Authority at the Ministry of Finance in the person of Foster Aboagye, who is coming to tell us how the ministry is positioning itself to attract more funds into the country. Last but not the least, I always call him a rebel man because he has a very strong willpower when it comes to dealing with issues at the international level. He is no less a person than Mr. Kofi Ajaku from the Energy Commission. He is in charge of renewable energy, and he has been doing this since he joined Energy Commission and has served on several platforms globally. So with that, I think my panel is set to do justice to why we are here. I have a number of questions that I will be putting to them, but what will happen is that I'm going to call them in the sequence that I've given them the program outline. So the first person that will give either an interactive presentation or a PowerPoint presentation will be Mr. Stephen Kansuk from the UNDP. Stephen, you have the floor.
Can you hear me? Okay. And thank you, colleagues from Ghana and all the delegates that are here. I'm sure, Dotse, you know I'm a lawyer and I should be prepared to see you very soon because you didn't make me understand that I'll be part of the panel discussion this evening and I'll be making some presentation as you have said, which is not the case, but on a lighter note. And you, as you would have probably also known that most of all the vertical funds or the bilateral development funds on issues related to climate change or climate finance in general will require that whatever interventions that we are doing would probably be able to address the needs of all, especially women groups. But your panel itself does not speak to that. I'm not too sure whether or not your panel, looking at the constitution of your panel, all of us are males here. I'm not too sure whether or not we are qualified to assess any form of financing to lead our development. So, Rosalind, you haven't done as well by refusing to be part of the panel here. But on a more serious note, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today and to share our experience from UNDP, having worked with government, private sector, civil society, in terms of raising ambitions and also helping to see how we can access financing from the private sector, from the global funds, and from our other bilateral development organizations. But over the period and over the years, one of the key challenges that we have identified over the period is the fact that the level of capacity that is needed, in order to be able to develop, to identify and develop bankable projects or projects that can easily attract financing, either from the GCF, from AF, from Global Environment Facility, from the private sector, and even some bilateral development organizations is one of the key challenges that we have often had over the period. Because if you look at some of the investment criteria, for instance, GCF, there are a number of other investment criteria you need to qualify, you need to meet in order to be able to assess any financing proposal from them. But if you look at the investment criteria itself, it becomes a bit very complicated and complex that you cannot possibly find it in one person that may have the ability to be able to develop, provide that kind of technical support to develop such bankable projects. For instance, they will be looking at adaptation with mitigation co-benefits, or mitigation with adaptation co-benefits, or whether or not the investment perspectives, whether or not it will probably create more jobs, it could leverage private sector financing, or could even bring additional financing to whatever program that you have. But you cannot find that in one individual, and it becomes sometimes a bit difficult in trying to get a good mix of experts that can enable us develop such program. And that has always been one of the challenges that we have faced over the period. Originally, you would notice that even in the development of the GCF proposal itself, we managed to get a few consultants on board, but I'm not too sure whether or not, originally yourself, we were very much impressed about the kind of quality of work that those individuals brought. But it was a bit very difficult in order to be able to get those with that mixed set of skill sets that would be able to help us develop such bankable. And that is one of the main challenges. And you will agree that it is not only Ghana, it's not only Africa, there are several other countries that are computing from the same pot. So if the quality of your proposal is not good enough, it becomes a bit very difficult for you to get financing. So I would say that it's one of the critical challenges that I have faced over the period in terms of developing projects that can be able to access financing from all sources, from the private sector, philanthropists, from GCF, from vertical funds and all that. And I think that the time has come as a country or as a nation for us to have that capacity development program where we can have a roster of experts within the country that we can train them on certain specific areas of work so that at least at any point in time we can deploy them to assist us to develop those bankable projects. So I would say these are some of the thoughts that I thought I needed to mention as the first speaker on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Sorry, lawyer Stephen, for for that brilliant submission. I think he has said it all, because what is required, what is needed, I'm going to share our experience with you somewhere along the line. When we attempted going to the GCF, it is an area where you need to be more committed than ever before. You need to understand the direction which the fund is going. You need to understand the technical capacity of yourself, and of course, the programmatic direction of the fund. Because they just don't give fund because you are coming from a vulnerable country. You need to justify why your proposal is better than another proposal coming from a different country. And of course, you also need to demonstrate your knowledge in your country. How is what you are going to do align with your national policies and strategies and action plans? And of course, the beneficiaries. Anything short of this, you might be throwing yourself in an open ocean. On that beautiful note, let me then move to Mr. Foster Aboagye. He is at the center of receiving the, be it a concept note, be it a proposal from the private sector, be it a proposal from the public, be it anything. He is at the center. Foster, can you share with us some of the experiences, the challenges that the NDA has gone through over the years, and how you can make some proposals for us to overcome those challenges that you have identified in your work.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dotse, and also members of the public listening to us, and also my colleague panelists who are here. First of all, I would want to use this opportunity to express my appreciation for inviting the Ministry of Finance to be part of this discussion. Before I start, I would want to also say that for the first time in the history of our country, we happen to have gotten our finance minister to be at COP, doing wonderful things, having a lot of engagement that we believe has yielded a lot of positive results. Before his departure, there was one conclusion that he did make, and I think it's good to start with, that henceforth, financing, to access financing from the developed world, wouldn't be business as usual. All financing will be tied to climate change. It tells you that we have come and we have now landed, understood the trajectory of financing at the global level. On that note, I wish to also extend the warmest regards of our ministry, the Honorable Minister, and my own director and colleagues at the ministry. I believe to talk about experiences of climate financing, it's also good we understand where we have come from. There are a lot of things that is happening in our country and at the global world, which is important that we take note. There's a lot of report that has indicated that Ghana is on the descent of poverty if we are not very careful, especially because of climate change. According to the World Bank Group, their development report, that is a CDDR, they have indicated that income levels are falling rapidly as a result of climate change. And therefore, it's important that we think through whatever we do. Again, our own CVF and V20 reports that emanated recently has also indicated that there's a lot that is happening within the climate arena. Ghana has lost almost about 200 billion between a space of 2000 to 2019. It tells you that we are losing a lot, and therefore we need to keep our interest and get ourselves on the table to make sure that actions are taken. Now, in terms of the challenges over the years relating to climate finance, one thing I was going to say was the political will, but now I can confidently say that it's an issue that we might not see so much, because His Excellency, the President of Ghana, has shown that commitment and keep leading that. Our finance minister has stressed on that, and it tells you that the political commitment is no longer a talk, but action. The other thing I also want to talk about is also the issue of the Green Climate Fund. Over the years, the Ministry of Finance has led this area, and we've managed to present a number of proposals to the GCF. We've gotten some approval, which, if you compare to other countries, looks unique. But this has not come without challenges. And one of the challenges that I think is key and cut across is capacity. Capacity, capacity, capacity. Effort is being made to build capacity, but we believe that it's something the country is lacking, and that is to be able to develop bankable proposals that are aligned with our nationally determined contribution. proposal that seem to be responding to the direction of the fund. The proposal that is addressing the country's fundamental issue, because like we have all come to understand, climate change is no longer alone. It's a developmental agenda. So this is one of the things that we are lacking. Another thing has to do with the GCF. The GCF over the years have been trying to improve, but the word simplicity is still an issue. The GCF has been able to come out with a simplified approval process, but as to whether the word simplified approval is simplified in terms of getting proposal approved at the GCF level is another thing. As we've submitted a number of these proposals, it takes 3 to 5 years before some of them are approved. And I'm happy to be at COP, looking at the face of one person who makes me very happy, the Forestry Commission, who happened to be the first institution with national project approved for our country. We would continue to work with you and make sure that the objective and the dream that we all started with come to fruition. The other thing that we are having serious challenge is co-financing. And I'm sure most of us are aware that the Paris Agreement, Article 9, was very clear that developed countries need to make funding available to us. Well, it's good for us to make commitments in terms of co-financing, but the trajectory and the direction in which this funding is heading is tilting towards making this money to us to more of loans, which means we would have to be paying for what we didn't commit. So it's a big challenge. Again, the co-financing that we are asked to contribute as part of leveraging the GCF funding now is fresh and additional. Countries like Ghana, who happen to be going through difficulties with debt distress, I'm very sure that it's not a time to be asking them to be committing so much. So I think it's one of the big hurdles, because we can't get the public institutions to recycle their funding that is even difficult to come by for co-financing. The only leverage they have is the private sector, and the private sector back home are also struggling because of understanding, capacity, and what have you. Since my time is running up, the few things I want to also bring to our attention is the issue of stakeholder engagement. It's good, it's a requirement by the GCF, as Stephen did allude to. But I think it's also another thing our people are struggling with, to be able to have an extensive stakeholder engagement. So these are some of the things. Lastly, I would also want to touch on the process of accreditation. We happen to have submitted a number of institutions for accreditation, and currently it's only one that has been accredited. Why? One, the capacity. Two, it looks as if those who have the technical know-how are ahead of us, and it makes it very difficult for our national entities to be able to leverage on the existing structures at the fund. So we're struggling. They have their internal difficulties, but then we believe that the fund can be much simpler for them to be accredited, so that, as the GCF required, that we should use more of direct access entity, which are institutions that have been accredited in country. So these are the few thoughts I would want to share. I'm sure we'll get the opportunity of adding up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Foster. Let me quickly move on to Thomas. Thomas, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dotse and HATOF. And my boss has given me big shoes to wear. I hope I fit in correctly. More so as she's a female, to fit in that shoe requires much tact. And I hope I'm able to do that this evening. I see the issue of financing from two angles. One at one side, that is basically the countries or the programs and the funding or the financing sources, and perhaps the vehicle to meeting the requirements of those sources. So in country, what are the challenges? What are the climate challenges that we have within the various sectors? And how do we put those challenges together to come up with bankable projects, as Stephen rightly pointed out? Let me, for instance, use one of the forest sector programs, the Ghana Cocoa Forest Red Plus program. For instance, you see, it had gone through a 10-year period of, say, readiness, putting in place some key structures. And based on that, we came up with the resource-based angle to it. But that is not only the key issue here. The key issue for me is that, having gone through the lessons and through that proof of concept using the Ghana Cocoa Forest Red Plus program, how can we take advantage of that with emerging financing sources? That, for me, is the key. So, for instance, you see that in the forest sector, we've taken advantage of the Leaf Coalition because we have an existing program, and based on that program, the lessons that we've learned from that, we're able to take advantage of the Leaf Coalition. That brings me to the point that Mr. Gyamfi just made. What are the lessons that the various sectors are learning in getting these funds from these sources? And how can we as a country put these lessons together and expand such lessons to other sectors, so that we can go to the various sources, see the requirements, because every funding source has its requirement, be it the private, be it the multilateral, be it the philanthropic, or be it bilaterals. They all have their sources and they all have their objectives. How can we have lessons from the existing portfolios? Fortunately, Foster mentioned the Ghana Shell Landscape Emission Reduction Project as the first one. And I know that there are other pipeline projects. Are the pipeline projects learning from that process? For me, that is how we can be able to assess funding. Mr. Kansu, Stephen mentioned, for instance, building capacity. What capacity have we built in assessing the first GCF funding in Ghana? Are we putting all of this together? I remember, for instance, putting all the responses we sent to the GCF. We had over 100 pages of responses. Are we able to consolidate that perhaps as NDA, for instance? And what are the pipeline projects? Are we able to consolidate all this so that we can upscale that to the other sectors and learn from that particular process? So for me, one, let's have existing portfolios. Two, let's learn from the various funding sources, be it multilateral, bilateral. What are their requirements? And in country too, we need to come up with the projects that are bankable. But to come up with bankable projects, we need to go to the underlying causes. When you look at the Ghana Cocoa Forest Red Plus program, the underlying cause is livelihood for farmers. How can we put that together with existing data or science to come up with key issues so that when we present them, it's in line with the global objective? So these are things that I think that we need to put together when it comes to the way we can upscale our financing schemes going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that experience. Let's give him a round of applause, because it's not easy to take money from the GCF. They have done extremely well. So quickly, let me move to the Energy Commission for us to hear from Mr. Kofi Agyapong.
Thank you very much. I had wanted to show you some slides, but I think that there's some technical hitch somewhere, so I I'm going to just speak from my notes. I wish I could do the slideshow because I believe in seeing is believing.
Yeah, I think they are trying to do that.
I'm going to address our minds to what the Energy Commission has done by being able to locally unlock over 11 million Ghana cedis to promote energy efficiency activities and still counting. What we have done is to make a special arrangement to ensure that super efficient cooling appliances, air conditioners and refrigerating appliances get to individuals' homes without sweating in payment. So,
Come again?
with technical assistance from United for Efficiency and BASE, that is Basel Agency for Sustainable Energy, we set ourselves up last 2 years to put this. Good. So where is the control going to come from? Do I come there? Okay, good. This is the way I want it. So we set ourselves off to implement this. You recall that Ghana has a record of having implemented a very successful rebate scheme with the support of UNDP between 2011 and 2015. So we rode on the back of that successful project to now move from efficiency to super efficiency appliances. But the question is, where was the money going to come from? So we introduced a kind of innovative financing mechanisms laced with low-risk market mechanism. And that is what has actually pushed us to where we are today. The focus of this project were two, basically: salaried workers and self-employed guys who have solid bank accounts or who have identified bank where their incomes and revenues are channeled. And don't ask me why. It's for a very obvious reason. Because we made arrangements. We made arrangements with about 8 participating vendors and 2 banks. And the arrangement was that these vendors, as part of their social responsibility, they were prepared to offer these super efficient appliances to consumers at concessionary prices. And then the banks were also prepared to offer loans, interest-free loans, over a period of 12 months at 0 interest rate for consumers who show interest to be able to buy these super efficient appliances. The benefits accrued so far are that now we have money to introduce, as I said, super efficient fridges and air conditioners into Ghanaian homes. Now you can find air conditioners that are rated 4 stars in people's homes. And that is a good thing because that is not even easy to come by in Europe. And we also provided the flexible financing mechanism to ensure that people are able to purchase these things without sweating. And consumers who have actually benefited indicate that they have reduced their bills. And these appliances are eco-friendly because the refrigerants in them are hydrocarbons and not the CFCs and the HFCs, which are injurious to the environment. So we employed so many publicity mechanisms to ensure that these things get to our target market. Radio, all the social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, you'll find us there. And the name of the project is Eco Fridges, but not fridges alone. Air conditioners are included. So this is the amazing achievement that I can share, that by October ending, we had sold 1,131 new super efficient air conditioners, and then 1,238 new super efficient refrigerators. What is very intriguing is that this project has saved us over 17 tons of carbon dioxide. But for that, we would have pushed this onto the atmosphere. And as I indicated, over 11 million has been raised in this particular project that we have done. And it is made in Ghana project. And the energy consumption, peak load consumption that we have saved is also in the region of 21 plus megawatt hours. So that is what we have managed to achieve with this 11.1 million. Lessons, and I sit down. Number one, this project has proven that the Ghanaian market, and for that matter, the African market, is ripe for energy efficiency appliances. There's no doubt about that. Number two, the perception that Africa is low income, and for that matter, consumers settle for anything less, is never, never true. Ghanaians and Africans have taste for high energy efficient equipment. Still, availability is an issue because more often than not, the vendors run short of these efficient equipment. So consumers have to wait for new stock to be replenished before they can buy. And I have observed that if we had obtained money to introduce another form of financing mechanism, that is rebate, as we did previously, we could have doubled the numbers that I have shown. And the real problem that is militating against the uptake of super efficient equipment in Ghana is the availability of alternatives. And what are these alternatives? These alternatives are the used, the obsolete, and the inefficient, the junkies that are shipped to Ghana every now and then. The zombies, those appliances that are energy guzzlers. You see, once you have an alternative, definitely you want to save money. So you go in for a cheaper product that will consume electricity, drain your pocket, instead of buying what is efficient. So if the alternative ceases, then we are good to go. And on that note, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. I think quite a number of us may not have an idea that this is what Energy Commission is doing. So from here, when we get back to our countries, we can take a decision on that. Quickly, let's get to the fun. All right, Kojo, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Dotse. So I think initially I had about 15 minutes, so based on that, I did these slides. But I'll try and jump as and when. So basically, I think we are all, I see most of us being Ghanaians, but when we talk about the fund, Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, most of us do not really know exactly what to do. So in these slides, I'll be looking at who gave us, what we have done to date, where we are today, and then the takeaways. What problem are we trying to solve? The problem is how can African governments help to unlock more private sector funding to fund the infrastructure deficits in Africa? AFDB estimates Africa's deficit of infrastructure to be around 108 billion, and this is restricting productivity. African governments have acknowledged that there is a need for them to fill these gaps. However, there isn't enough private sector funding that is being attracted despite many African reforms. And so how can we do this, or how can we bridge this gap? Ghana is leading the way with a bold new initiative, and this initiative is a creation of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. We are a permanent investment vehicle that was established by the government of Ghana with 345 million anchor equity to act as a catalyst to leverage private sector funds into infrastructure assets in Ghana. Quick facts about GIF. We commenced operations in 2015. We are 100% owned by the government of Ghana. We have an all-paid equity balance sheet of about $345 million. We have a unique governance structure, and then the sectors that we focus on are basically the economic and social infrastructure within the country. So far, we have utilized $315 million of the initial funding that was provided to us in about 13 projects in the country. In terms of geographic focus, it is mainly PPPs and commercial viable projects and joint ventures and concessions in Ghana. So the projects must be situated in Ghana. And the products that we mostly use are either debt, equity, mezzanine, or any credit enhancement facilities. What are the key sectors that we focus on? These are the sectors that we focus on. We have power, transportation, telecommunication, oil and gas, heavy industry, mining services, and then tourism. That is just for the economic sectors. In terms of social infrastructure, we look at health, education, social housing, waste management services. We are very keen on the SDGs, and we are very particular about ensuring that for all the projects that we finance, we go through the Equita principles. And then also for all projects within the built environment, they have to be EDGE certified. EDGE certified means that it is an IFC excellence in design for greater efficiencies. It is a building accreditation that is given by the IFC. What have we done to date? So far, we've disbursed $315 million into 13 projects. And out of this, in terms of total project size, it is about 3.3 billion within the last 5 years. And for every dollar that we've so far disbursed into projects, we've been able to bring on board 10 of that amount into the projects. That means that for every dollar that we've expended, we've been able to bring on board additional funds from DFIs from multilateral agencies, 10 times of that amount. All the projects that we financed so far have been led by Ghanaians. The sponsors are mainly Ghanaians because we believe that we want to use Ghanaians to do world-class projects and raise the level of Ghanaian participation in infrastructure. 3 of our projects are at the development stage, 3 in the construction stage, and then 7 of them are now operational. These are some of the projects that we finance. So you are all familiar with the Ghana Airport Terminal 3 project that was financed by GIF, together with the Development Bank of Southern Africa and the African Development Bank, together with a group of other commercial lenders. And then we have the Takoradi Oil Jetty project. Apart from that, we've also laid fiber optic cable all the way from the Volta region to the western region and stretching all the way to Sunyani. That was the first phase. For the second phase, we are trying to close the gap from the Volta region all the way to the northern region so that the Sahelian region can also take advantage of this fiber optic cable that Ghana is trying to embark on. So we are now on the second phase. And then we have the Takoradi Port expansion, which invested about $58 million in debt. We have 2 projects coming up. The first one is the Airport City Pullman Hotel, which we've invested about $25 million. This is an EDGE certified project, so that is a green building, and very soon it will come up. We also have Maha Beach Hotel. Those who have been to the Western region, you are familiar with Maha. Gyamfi is an investor in Maha Hotel. We have a student accommodation project that is being completed at Takoradi University, the Takoradi Technical University, and then also the Crown Forest Safari Park, which is coming up in the central region. This is it's an amazing project because it comprises a game park, hotel accommodation, outdoor recreational facilities, and agriculture on an 820-acre land in the central region. Where is GIFT today and where are we going? In terms of project pipelines, I'll finish very soon. In terms of project pipelines, we have a number of projects in the transportation sector, sustainable affordable housing, sustainable student accommodation, the transwater logistics projects, and then also we have 1,000 megawatts tidal wave energy project, apart from a number of renewable projects that have been submitted to us for our project, for our appraiser, to look at the bankability of those projects. I will jump status of our funding. So on our own, so far we've been able, all my other colleagues were talking about funding, but on a bilateral basis, so far GIF alone has been able to raise $85 million from the Agence Française Développementale, that's the AFD, the French Development Agency. We've raised $85 million, not just $85 million in terms of credits, a credit line, but then also they provided 400,000 euros worth of technical assistance to the institution. Apart from that, the AFDB is also giving us $75 million, all for infrastructure projects in Ghana. GCA is also giving us technical support. The Global Center on Adaptation is also giving us technical support to help us in becoming accredited entity for the Green Climate Fund. And we believe this is an achievement that is a track record of GIF and strong. Even with 250 million of new debt, we still require additional funding. So GIF is looking for partners to support this exciting journey with this new type of institution to help address Africa's infrastructure deficit. And if we can get GIF right in Ghana, it is possible that we can replicate such a good institution throughout Africa. So in terms of funding, it is about how you position yourself. These are the fine reasons why so far the traits at GIF that has brought us this far. One is we are 100% owned by the government of Ghana. Two, we are strongly capitalized. We have a strong governance system in place. We have strong risk management in place. And then in terms of proving management. And then our mandate fit is also very important so far as infrastructure development in the country is concerned. Doc, the way you are looking at my face, so these are our tombstones that we have. I'll share these slides with all of you. Those who don't know about the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, I think this will be a very good opportunity for you to know more about us, and then also sell us. We need more funds to be able to develop more infrastructure projects in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have one important personality here who will have to give us 1 or 2 minutes. Should I call it exhortation? Let me welcome Dr. George Mafo to come and tell us in 2 minutes his experience with UNEP and what he's doing and how we can leverage on that to attract more funding for Ghana. Doctor, you are most welcome. Thanks for your mentorship.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dotse. It's really a pleasure to be here and to hear these wonderful presentations. I think now I'm convinced Ghana knows what it takes to get climate financing. From what has been said by a colleague from UNDP and what my other competitors have said, we know what it takes. I just took a picture. Sorry, I had to rush because I had another meeting and I cut that meeting to be here and they just called me back. So I just want to share something. Whilst coming here, I took a picture of a presentation being done in the, I think, the Egyptian pavilion. And they said SDG localization as a driver for urgent climate action and financing. SDG localization as a driver for urgent climate action and financing. And the last presentation just did that. Now, if you want to get money from if you want to get climate financing, first of all, you must be aware that the term climate financing has not been defined by this process. And it's for a very good reason. Because for many activities, it is difficult to separate development, resources needed for development planning or implementing development plans and for climate change. If you use efficient refrigeration systems or cooling systems, you are conserving energy. Now, if you conserve energy, you are implementing climate action. But even if climate change didn't exist, so we do not conserve energy and use energy efficiently? We will. So why should somebody fund your energy efficiency projects? So the reason why they are funding it is that you are using energy to do more work. That is the circular carbon economy. But I didn't hear the term, maybe UNDP used, Stephen, did you use that term, circular carbon? You didn't use it, good. You see, the circularity of carbon, meaning that you would use resources at, you grow your economy using a lower carbon footprint. And if Ghana does that, we can attract a lot of financing. But you and I know that climate financing is easy, it's not easy to come by. At least I have been to 25 out of the 27 COPs. As a national delegate, as a secretariat staff, as a UNEP staff, and now back as a country delegate. And I know that getting climate financing is not easy. But Ghana has over the years gotten our fair share and we can get more. And from what I've heard today, I know we have what it takes. You can link up your SDG implementation programs with your national budget to leverage co-financing for projects. For example, we can use our energy efficiency projects and to leverage carbon financing. Yesterday, I had a presentation by the Saudis. They want to go around the world, and I've recommended Ghana to them. They will send some people to Ghana to see what they can do in Ghana to get carbon credit. And Ghanaians must also have a strategy that will only give people not the low-hanging fruits. The low-hanging fruits, we will do them ourselves. The high-hanging fruits we will give to those who want to come and invest. So thank you very much. And I think we should organize this also when we come back to Accra. Not only here, and then we will be able to exchange views and ideas as to how we can leverage more climate financing to support our development agenda in Ghana. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Let's give him. So you see that it is important that we hear from the experts. He, behind the scene, is encouraging countries to come to Ghana. The last time I was saying that the South African government has signed 17 memorandum of understanding with the Saudi government, totally $15 billion. These are some of the people or the areas that we can hear some of these things. yes, the panelists have done their job, and Dr. Mafo also has alluded to the fact that we have what it takes now to take the money. I have some few questions before the audience will give you whatever they have. Stephen, can you tell us how should the private sector, NGOs, and the government in Ghana position themselves to take advantage of the existing financing mechanisms that we have in the country?
First of all, I think that data evidence is important. And of course, the private sector is not going to be part of the process if there's no data or evidence. They are not willing to invest in gathering the data. They're not willing to invest in gathering the evidence because they just want to invest, but they want you to be prepared so that they can invest in it. So I think it's an opportunity for us as, say, governments and the academia and, of course, the development partners to invest in terms of the knowledge generation and data evidence. And once that data evidence is there, we can now pitch it with the private sector so that the private sector can probably be able to invest in more critical sectors of the economy. But of course, if we also have the data and evidence, we are more likely going to redirect their financing. We are not asking for them to give us funds to implement development projects, no. But if we are able to redirect their financing for the achievement of the SDGs, one area that we are looking at. For instance, I'm not too sure whether or not the Forestry Commission or the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology or Ministry of Finance is just interested in receiving funds. They are receiving the funds for a need, for a development need. So if we have the evidence and data and that we can encourage the private sector to redirect their financing to solve that need, I think that is one area that I think that we could potentially be able to do so. But I also think that there's a possibility for us, as my very senior colleague mentioned, it is very difficult mobilizing financing now. There's no way. I mean, that's why you hear they are trying to increase the standards almost every time so that they can postpone it, making it very complicated for us to be able to access those financing. But I think that the little finance that we have, the climate finance that we have, or other finances that we have, we could potentially be used to blend it with some other financing solutions so that we can potentially be able to mobilize additional financing for our own development needs. And I think one critical point that he mentioned also, there are quite a lot of things that we are doing in Ghana. For instance, my very good colleague, senior colleague, who has just spoken about the work that the Ghana infrastructure is doing. I didn't know so much about what they have done, but this is co-financing. These are real development projects that they are doing. And I think that we can leverage on it to attract more financing, to intervene in all our NDCs. So this is how I see it, and I think that there's more work that we can potentially be able to do. But I had one important point that I thought that I needed to mention when you asked us about the experience that we've had over the years. And I think that mobilizing financing is very, very important. Attracting financing is very, very important. The utilization of the funds is as important, it is more important as the mobilization. If you mobilize the resources and you don't utilize it, you don't deliver it, there are two things. One, you are postponing the environment, the climate change impacts on the people. They are not going to wait for it. You know our loss and damage, the financing they are funding. So if we delay in the utilization of the fund for the purpose of which it's set, we are causing a lot of damage to the people that we have looked fund for. And again, it sends a signal also to our partners that the capacity, that we don't probably have the capacity. Meanwhile, we have the capacity. So mobilization is important. Utilization of the resources for the intended purpose is also very key. And it could serve as a resource mobilization tool. Thank you, Dotse.
Thank you very much. Getting the money is important. Using it is very, very important. Foster, you have received all the documents. What are some of the issues that you find with some, and how do you, what's your advice to those who are yet to bring some?
Thank you very much, Dr. Dotse. I believe the answer is simple and straightforward. First, we need to understand the criteria of the funding in which we want to access financing from. If we understand the criteria, it makes it easier. The other thing is to be able to also know the trajectory of the fund. So the direction from the COB to those funds, such as the GCF, the funding mechanisms, such as the GCF, the Global Environment Facility, the Climate Investment Fund, Adaptation Fund, because the COP gives yearly guidance as to how they should operate. And these things gives direction as to how they're going to operate. So to be able to get it right, you need to follow this discussion and where the guidance are. The other thing which I did mention is also to look inward. That is, what has been packaged as a country, what is the strategy of the country? And currently, updated nationally determined strategy, updated nationally determined contribution, the NDCs, is what is guiding us. And also the SDGs that we have, the sector plans are the ones guiding us. So if you want to submit a proposal, you need to look at all these things. But having said that, it's also very important to understand the GCF requirement to the extent that what funding instruments can help you get the needed funding. We know there are grants which we all would want and believe that if we get the grant, it will help us to be able to implement actions on the ground. But I can tell you for sure that the GCF is looking more of innovative way of doing things. So the grants are now limited. So we need to also understand this. So the loans are now becoming the kind of new ways of doing things. But having said that, I also want to believe that we need to look inward as has been articulated. So what can we do? So the private sector, especially the banks, need to also play a key role so that we always don't have to be running to these funds and waiting until 3 to 5 years when the objectives that we want to achieve would have been eroded. Because if you get money after 5 years, I'm not sure the climate issues will be waiting for you. It will be late. So these are some of the things that
Thank
I
you
would
very
want
much. Kojo, GIF is seeking accreditation to the GCF or from the GCF. You've gone through quite a few processes. In your candid opinion, what will be your proposal for GCF? What you have seen so far in terms of requirements, things that you have to provide, and what have you?
Okay, Doc, thank you very much. I think I would want to first maybe react to what my brother Foster mentioned in terms of trying to bring on board the banks. As a former banker, we are a profit center. So banks are more concerned with profits. That's the reason why you see them giving monies to the traders on a more regular basis. I think what needs to be done is to let them understand the benefits of this whole climate discussion. It is just a few banks which know, who are very familiar with what happens in this space. So I think as a country, we need to take it up and then educate them before we can bring them on board. If not, it will be business as usual. We'll never get them. Back to your question on GCF. Yes, the process has been very difficult. I think the first time that we had no objection from the Minister of Finance through the support of my brother Foster, yourselves, and then Robert, it's more than a year ago, if not 2 years. And it's been very tough. But I think that what can make it succeed is one, internal capacity, building internal capacity, understanding the process. management buy-in. Because if your management does not understand the process and you do not buy in, it will be very difficult for you to progress. And then the third one is teamwork within the institution itself. Forming a team, letting everybody understand the process, getting their buy-in. If not, if you leave it to just an individual and he or she is the only one who is pushing this, most of the time you will not be successful. And then I think the experienced people within the space we should take it as a national agenda. We should be concerned about it and handhold institutions and send them to GCF. Because if you allow these new ones coming in, they'll just struggle through it. Let's get the experienced guy to just handhold institutions to the GCF. And then also I think more of building internal capacity within these institutions. If we are to talk about GCF, I will say that when we met Eduardo. I think he's in charge of Africa. This afternoon we met him, and then we made him aware that all that we need from them is just support, understanding the needs of Ghana, and then responding to our needs early. Because sometimes when you submit documents, it takes them weeks, months before they review and bring you responses. And I think that is what they need to do. It's just a matter of the support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My Professor Red Plus, even though you were not on the panel, I'm directing this question because Stephen indicated to me that the panel, at least gender balance, is gender absent. So, Rosalie, the first lady to bring $30 million to Ghana, can you, within 30 seconds, advise any of the institutions that want to go to either the GCF or the climate investment funds what they should do before they begin the journey? Thank you very much. Thomas, you get yours, don't worry. I want her to talk.
Honorable Dotse, you want me to speak at all costs.
And NCCC is recording what we are doing.
Sure. And we have actually come a long way. I first want to appreciate HATOF for holding these engagements and regularly at COP meetings. And I want to propose that you take this home, because now you have funding for stakeholder engagement, not just for civil society. Invite us, organize these events back home. And let's build the capacity, because that's where we really need. Most of us do not even see each other again after COP events. And I'm sure that once you organize such platforms, we'll keep the discussion going until the next COP. Really, to answer your question and listening to the wonderful submissions, thank you to all the panelists. For me, I believe that we need to have a dedicated team that supports project proponents. I appreciate very much the work that the NDA, Technical Advisory Committee, does, and really putting it to Mr. Gyamfi that going forward, if it's possible to set that team aside with some resources, mingling this with our everyday work, unfortunately, I don't think is going to help us. We need a structure where there's a team that supports the project proponents, and then once projects are won, they are mainstreamed into the already existing structures. For example, my office at the Forestry Commission, basically what we are doing is coordination. We don't get into a lot of the on-the-ground implementation because the Forestry Commission has district and regional offices. You get the project funds, you mainstream into that particular system because we cannot implement ourselves. Once you begin to do that, you overburden that structure and you are not able to build your capacity further. A lot of people who engage with us on forestry, carbon issues, keep on asking, how do you do it? It's because we continuously lend ourselves to the process, learning, because we have that structure that implements And then we are able to go shopping for the resources and bring them in. We need such a structure back home. What the Technical Advisory Committee is doing is wonderful, but it shouldn't just be on a case-by-case basis. It should be a team that is continuously learning of the GCF process, because the process is not waiting for us. The process is not meeting when there's a project proposal. The GCF is a whole structure that is working every year, every day, and new things are coming up. And so we should also resource that team to work every day, like a think tank for various sectors. And Thomas mentioned something very important. Even the comments we receive from the GCF across different projects, how have we documented these as a repository for others who are coming on board to even feed on that? Because there's a lot of information in there, or there are a lot of different issues covered in there. So that would be my response. I believe that what the Forestry Commission had was the collective effort of everybody on that technical committee, not just the commission. And if we lend ourselves to maintaining that momentum, we can do more. And sorry, I couldn't just take 30 seconds. I'm the only woman you've invited now. You've given the men like 10, 15 minutes, and you want to give me 30 seconds. It won't work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's clap for him. Let's clap for her, sorry. In fact, the issues that she has raised, they are very, very critical. When I had the privilege of going to India, what you just said, India has an institution, all the work that they do is to write project proposals. And when the grant is awarded, a percentage is paid to everybody on the team. So you see that their work is to write project proposals. They don't do anything. So I think, Foster, you've heard her right. Thomas, your last. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I would like to add is that, one, packaging of the issues is very important. We may see the challenges, but how we package it according to the requirement is very key here, and that's something I believe we can work on. Already we have private sector investment. Can we realign those investments to meet our climate objectives as a country? And based on that, use that as our proof of concept of issues that we have to get in more financing. I think that's also something that we can do as well. The other one is our local budget or our national budget. Mr. Gyamfi mentioned, for instance, co-financing. How can we realign our national budget in such a way that it's a form of co-financing, or it serves as piloting most of the things that we are talking about? And based on that, we can use that to upscale things going forward. So these are like 3 key things that I would like to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Last but not the least, my senior brother, issues of affordability. How do we convince us that it is better to buy the super efficient ones rather than the...
Okay, before I answer your question, what is the name of the man who came up?
Dr. Mafu.
Yes, Dr. Mafu raised an issue that I think that Ghana has crossed that path, and it is very elating. So I think that I need to share it here on this platform for everybody to know. He did mention carbon circularity. That is, in a layman's sense, a country's ability to develop by using less energy. Ghana crossed that path in 2012 when we started the aggressive energy efficiency campaign. So Ghana has joined a few countries like Sweden, Japan, in fact, there are very few around the globe that have achieved that status, where development and energy consumption are moving at opposite direction. And that is to say that we have registered our name among the Committee of Nations that have taken energy efficiency so seriously as a national agenda. Now, coming back to your question specifically, it's a choice. You can decide to buy something at low price, but the running cost will drain your pocket. And you can also buy something at high price, but then you enjoy a low running cost. And to be able to cushion consumers, that is why we have put this arrangement in place. Just try it and see. As I talk about it, you might think that it is one of those gimmicks. But there are banks, the banks that I showed you, who will grant you money, provided you show proof that you are buying energy super efficient appliances. They will grant you the loan. You pay it over 12 months, that is 1 year, at 0 interest rate. And a good number of Ghanaians have taken advantage of that. We have done a few video clips that we'll start releasing, where individuals who have benefited from this scheme tell their own story. Now people are able to enjoy their air conditioners without commensurate high energy bills. So it is possible, but it is a choice that the individual has
Thank
to make.
you very much. It's a choice and a decision that the individual will have to make. Now to the audience, we'd like to pick few questions or comments or whatever so that we can be out of this place. Any question, any comment? Otherwise, then I discharge my panelists.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you, panelists. I think this has been an enlightening discussion. My name is Olive Enchidazi. I used to work in the bank many years ago, but there was a comment about some banks not integrating climate change organizations in their operations. I think Ghana has come a long way. In November 2019, if I recollect correctly, the Bank of Ghana launched a set of sustainable principles, and His Excellency the Vice President launched it. It's going well. Every quarter, banks report on how well they're doing in this space, and so we've come very well, and I thought that it's an important point to note. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Ghana has launched or joined the sustainability. Great.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Just a quick one. The gentleman, your presentation on the fact that you'll be able to save about 17,000 tons of carbon dioxide. That's no mean achievement. But you also showed some brand of refrigerators and air conditioners and so on and so forth. I believe these brands are coming from outside the country. So I just want to find out whether you have any plans going forward to have some plants in Ghana so we can start manufacturing some of these things rather than always, going outside the country to get them.
So you take note of the question. Let me pick another question or comment.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dotse. For me, I want to make a case from the media front. Doug, I think it will be very important to do more media engagement and then build the capacity of the media. Why am I saying so? We've been hearing issues, especially when it comes to climate conferences. It started from Glasgow, even in Egypt here, we're talking about so many other things that I think it's not right. Now, we have a lot of programs Even this one, this particular session that you have over here, I don't know whether you invited the media to really understand this segment, then they can report appropriately. I'm not too sure. Ghana as a nation itself, coming to COP, I realized that either the ministers or individuals have their own media group, and that would not help us. Let me give you a typical example. When you go to the presidency, there is a COP, or let me say a media group that reports on the presidential activities. So it means that they build their capacity so that we'll be able to report. Same happened to Parliament. They also have the parliamentary press that also report on parliamentary activities. How are they able to do it? They build their capacity and then they understand the issues of parliamentary activities. So when they are reporting, you realize that the reports, are well written and they write the report well. And I believe we can do the same for, the climate issues, because as we speak, climate affecting every aspect of our life. So it will be very important, like the issues that you raised in India, right? That we have a dedicated media group, not just any other journalist or any media person, but then we train them and then become part of COP. So anytime we go to COP activities or any other issues that have to do with climate, we deal with that. But thankfully, a group have started that course. So I want each and every one of us who are within the space to get closer to them. Their name is CCLG Africa, Climate Communications and Local Governance. Be with them, help them to build their capacity, and they are there to sell all the good things you are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let me pick.
Thank you very much. My name is Elvis Opon Mensah, and I work for Civil Response. Mine goes to the Minister of Energy. I just want to find out the eco-fridge. Is it done at the national level or at the various districts to assess an initiative? And maybe the second one is, what kind of awareness creation strategy do you have in place for other people to hear? Because for me, I don't know about the others, but for me, this is the first time of hearing such an initiative, because it's something that every Ghanaian needs to know. You also did mention that the banking, the interest on loan is 0%. We all know that banks trade with money. That's their source of income. So what's their interest, and how were you able to pull such an initiative? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kofi, you can now respond.
Okay, thank you. So the first round, I'm the Lone Ranger. No problem. The first question, whether we are looking at assembly plants in the future. In fact, that is the basic reason for which we have started doing what we are doing. No investor will want to invest in a market that is described as market for lemons. If you talk about market for lemons, it's the kind of market where bad products chase away good products, and then the market becomes toxic. Prior to Ghana's energy efficiency program in 2005, the appliance market in Ghana could be described as market of lemons, and no investor wanted to even come. They never showed interest. So we started with 3 appliances: refrigerators, air conditioners, and lighting bulb. We prescribed standards and went further to have regulations to enforce the standards. And in 2013-14, there was a refrigerator assembly plant in the Free Zone Enclave. I visited the place. But because of the struggle, we did not get support of Ghanaians to get rid of these used zombies from the market. That manufacturing plant could not survive. It's very painful. It could not survive. So we lost that bit of sustainable development because we are so much interested in the zombies on the market. So we have revised the laws. In fact, as we speak, we have now 17 appliances that have standards and labeling. It was passed just a couple of weeks, 2nd November to be precise. All those laws were passed. And it is to prepare the market to attract investors. So we want to appeal to Ghanaians to support the Energy Commission in enforcement of those laws that will keep the zombies out of our market so that new and efficient equipment will come in, and that will attract investors. Once the market is ripe, investors will definitely come as a matter of sequence. So we are taking the needed steps. I'm sure we will get there. Now, whether it is true that banks can offer zero interest rate, what is their interest in there? Yes, banks, like any other businesses, have corporate social responsibility. We are in an era where every institution will want to enjoy that climate image. So it will interest you to know that they rather came chasing us, wanting to partner us. And this thing goes into their annual reports, especially the multilaterals, and it shines their image out there that they have partnered a project that is reducing the carbon footprint of a nation. So it is very, very possible. And then, if you tell me that you haven't heard about it, I wouldn't be surprised, because you know that advertisement in Ghana is damn expensive. Every 4 years, the political campaign sets the bar, and then it doesn't come down. And as we speak, a simple LPM costs, I think, about 1,200 Ghana cedis. LPM. Just 5 seconds. So we don't have the wherewithal to be able to charge the media space, just like Bank of Ghana will do when they are changing the currency to the value is the same. So with our meager resources, that is why we employ all the avenues. We do a little in the electronic media space, but mostly in the social media platforms. And that is why maybe you might have not heard it. But today you have heard it. Yeah. So go out and spread the news. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our time is up. I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody. But before we go, Thomas wanted to. Thomas.
Yeah, just a quick one. Just to make the point that Dr. Manfo's point was mainly on circular economies, to which energy efficiency is one component of it. The circular economy is just trying to get rid of waste in the system, recycling and all that, vis-a-vis the linear economy, where we just take things, use them, and put them to waste. Just to put that across. Thank you.
You very much. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I want to thank you so much once again. And let's enjoy the remaining days. I want to thank Honorable Rashid Purple for gracing the occasion. It's an honor. Can we give him a round of applause for such an important personality visiting our event? On that score, stay blessed, enjoy. Don't do things that will cause others to be very angry with you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.